Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, you will hear from current students, alumni, teachers, and many more special guests as we explore what it's like to live and study in Lund. My name is Leonie, and I am a third-year Biomedicine Bachelor student from Germany. At Lund University, students don't just attend classes, engage in cutting-edge research, and take part in Lund's famous student life. They play an active role in contributing to the vision and governance of Lund University. Through student unions, students can influence decisions on education, policy, and student rights. These unions are key to governance and equality, values that helped Lund secure the #1 spot in the QS Sustainability Ranking 2026. That ranking reflects leadership in environmental impact, governance, and equality, areas where student voices truly matter. In today's episode, we'll explore how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and gain leadership experience while contributing to a university that leads the world in creating a fair, sustainable, and inclusive academic environment. Welcome to this episode today about student unions, and I'm sitting here with two guests. I think you can please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so hello, nice to meet you guys, and my name is Thea. I come from Canada, and I'm currently in my third year of the Bachelor's in Biomedicine program.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vero. I come from the Czech Republic, and I am currently studying Masters in European Studies.
Now, I'm really curious to hear what your involvement kind of is with the student unions. In which student union are you, and why did you engage into it?
So I'm in the biomedicine program as part of Medicinska Vereningen, which, to put that in English, is kind of the faculty for medical and medical associated studies. So what I'm sitting on currently is I'm currently a novice general for the introduction period for the non-international students, but for the new students. And I also sit on the general council within the faculty as well. Yeah.
On my perspective, I am a member of the Social Sciences Student Union, or Samhällsvetarkåren, as we call it here in Sweden. And I have been part of the union ever since 2023, where I started as the nominating council. And then I moved on to be a delegate in the assembly, which is the highest decision-making body. And then I became a board member. And sort of it snowballed into this craziness where I ended up being a full-timer last year, and I was the vice president of the Social Sciences Student Union. And even then when the year finished, I continued, and now I am the chairperson of the education committee. I also am a faculty board student representative, and I sit in the assembly again in the highest decision-making body. So my entire spirit and soul is really dedicated to the union when it comes to this.
Yeah, I think we can see that there's a lot of experience among all of us. I'm also part of the General Assembly, or the decision-making body in the student unions. It's kind of like a parliament in a way. Thea and I are part of that for the medical faculty. And there's a lot of instances how you can get involved. And I think we have a lot of social, but also kind of more the
administrative, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's stuff with us here. So there's two perspectives kind of on the student unions that I think will be highlighted during the episode also. So how do these student unions influence the student rights and university politics? So that's a lot in that question. But I think also in Sweden, the students have a lot to say. And I think we can maybe touch upon that, like how it is maybe on a smaller level, but also more in a grand scheme.
Yeah.
Maybe Vera wants to start. You have a lot to say, probably.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because in this regard, that is the main purpose of a student union. So a student union is an organization that has as its purpose to monitor the quality of education. You have a lot of different student organizations across Lund University, and there's like a very broad variety of them. But the core purpose and the main aim of a student union is to monitor that like your education is safeguarded, and like it also proposes and protects rights of students. So each of the student unions, and then all the student unions together, they negotiate with the university, and they also publish something called the List of Rights of Students. And that is a really important document that like serves as like a baseline of like what are my rights and also my duties as a student when it comes to the university, and how my teachers and my lecturers like work with me in that regard. So that is the main way. That's like the most principal way. But also student unions are just included in like almost every single aspect of decision making when it comes to universities. And that's the most important part of it all, of the way that unions influence student rights and in university politics.
Yeah, and I think that the novelty of the student union as well, and the reason why it's so attractive to be a part of, is because compared to a lot of other places, you do actually get a direct say in influencing these rights within your faculty. A good example of this within ours is each sub-program has a specific board, for example, that me and Leonie are going to after this right now. Actually.
It's kind of an educational council for your program, and really good way.
And it's you actually get to sit in these meetings and kind of make decisions about the programs and about actually being a participant within these programs and what you think could be changed or should be improved or maybe shuffled around within your program. So that's a really good way, at least to see a direct impact of this involvement.
Yeah.
But yeah, beyond that, I mean, it's also quite nice to just feel involved and feel like you're making that impact. Because, for example, in my home country, in Canada, you don't have a lot of say in what you kind of in your education and in that many student rights. There's, of course, clubs and kind of similar student life organizations, but it's not as involved as here.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think you can see we have like a lot of different layers to this. So it starts kind of, course specific, program specific, and there's like a board and instance for everything. And then you go into program boards. I'm sitting with in our program board for biomedicine and a couple of others programs in the faculty together too. And where there has to be a student at the table always. And we have student representatives that are elected by the student unions to represent the different programs. And this is a great way to get involved if you do want to get involved with this kind of stuff. And I think you can see that there are people very passionate about these things, and we do want to see change and improve. And I think in Sweden, the boards and the teachers are also very open to the student feedback usually.
And it actually goes even higher than that. So like you already touched upon the fact that it starts on like a course level and then your program level. Then you can also have class representatives who are not exactly student representatives, but like there's a way of representing and like voicing the concerns of one singular class. And then within like a faculty structure at our faculty and at many other faculties, it goes up to departments, which are just like, the institutions or the centers of like multiple different programs. And then you can influence it on a faculty level through the union centrally. So you can come to the union and tell them like, hey, I've seen this issue altogether that involves everyone in this regard on the faculty. Yeah. And then it goes even wider where there is an organization that's called LUS that ends up like pushing narratives in that regard or like pushing the student voice based on what the unions at each faculty say, and they push it towards the university centrally. And then you can even go to a national and international level. So like you go from like individual student in your small class or course, and then you can you can find student influence all the way up to the highest levels of like education.
And like some things that I think that I've heard are very important right now is, for example, like the vice president election, where the student unions are also, I think students have almost half of the voices for that. Yeah. And it's like, these, and from every student union, there's people involved in those processes too. So I think you can see that we do have a big influence into like the whole university as like, okay, who is it that is representing Lund University as like the top head, but also, this course layout was we want to change that. So it has many different ways. And I think also what people are wondering, how do you even get involved into this? And like, how is it to work in this environment as an international student that does not speak Swedish either?
Our program is quite good at this. It's quite good at getting students getting involved immediately. We do something that a lot of faculties do called a novishperiod, which is basically usually between 2 to 3 weeks at the beginning of each term, where new students come in and they get to participate in a bunch of fun activities led by people who participate in the union. So this is kind of a good way to get people to know and to educate people on the different positions that are available within the union. But I would say, for example, when I was in my first term, I kind of got, I don't know what the word is, but
I almost
persuaded.
sucked into
Sucked into it because one of my mentors from my group was participating in a weekly pea soup that our faculty makes for the students. And then sure enough,
we have a new pea master sitting in us.
I got the lovely title of pea master, or ätmästare in Swedish. But yeah, so I would say for a lot of the social aspects, the most important part is to show up to the things that they offer, because then they usually do quite a good job at explaining what's available and at maybe selling the benefits of being a part of it. But beyond all of that, it really is quite fun. And it's something very, very nice to do with your time outside of school and to meet new people.
I am actually so happy to hear that you had such an easy experience of transitioning so smoothly, because that is the complete opposite of my experience. So I started studying here in Lund as part of my bachelor's in 2020. And unfortunately, 2020, everything was online, not much of a social life necessarily blooming in Lund at the time, even though there were attempts. I didn't know anything about the student union, but as a student, I felt like I had a lot of things I wanted to say and a lot of things that were wrong. And it could have been such simple things like, oh, the schedules don't match up. So then you don't end up showing up to a lecture because of like a technical mistake. Or it could be just the fact that some of the lecturers didn't have they weren't taught how to actually use Zoom and show presentations. So it was extremely frustrating for 2 years almost. And then out of nowhere, I just met a friend of a friend who was working at the union at the time and was just looking for people to fill up positions in that regard. So she talked to me and she was just like, please, can you help us out with this thing? And I was just like, I guess I'll go. And I have not looked back a single time. So I started with just like helping out and got to meet the people and physically enter the union house for the first time and just seeing the atmosphere over there. And it was so different because I have been active around nations a little bit and like dabbled, but it has never spoken to me personally. It is great for so many people and so many people love it, but it has never spoken to me. But out of nowhere, I entered the universe where I felt like this is exactly what I want to do. And it just went smoothly from there. Like if you just enter the building or like enter the space and you end up talking to someone, you get sucked in. That's exactly what.
Yeah, it's like showing up. Exactly. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I also started second semester and I'm still deep into it.
Still going. Yeah. I'm. Honestly, I would say that it's quite sad to hear that it's that way with the faculties, because I know that it's also a very good way as an international student to kind of mingle with Swedish students as well. So a good example of this, is in the big kind of decision-making body that Leonie and I are participating in. It's kind of similar to yours.
Exactly. I'm sitting in the same.
Yeah. We get to meet different people from different programs. And I think there's actually at least one person from each program, I would hope.
I think so.
I don't know about audio, but...
I think so.
Yeah, but there's one person from each program in there at least. And so you get to kind of... it's a really good way to sort of broaden the people that you speak to outside of your class as well.
Yeah. So that's good reason to get involved.
Exactly.
But I think it's nice to hear because you kind of came maybe not from the social side of the union, but you entered through the social side into the union and then got also to the educational and nomination committee and things like that. And I think I also took my first position was in the General Assembly and I kind of started from there. So it's like, it's very different ways how you can get into it. It's also a bit like, sometimes I think it's easier to maybe enter through the social aspects than the educational aspects, but there's something for everybody. And I think that's also a good way to lead into the next question about what do these student unions actually offer, because it's not just, we want to change our time plan, or it's not just, there's pea soup every Thursday. That's also good. But I think there's a wide variety and it's very similar to the nations also in some ways, but then also differs a lot. So I think you can take the floor with that a bit.
Yeah, so I think that the easiest way I can explain it to people is that like, at least my union and a lot of other unions also mimic the similar structure, is that there is like 3 pillars of like 3 general broad categories of what you can do. One is focused on the like education monitoring and protecting your rights as a student. That's the part that I got sort of sucked in a little bit, but then I stayed for the social part because that's what ended up keeping me around. Then there is the second pillar, which is social events, creating a community, looking out for student welfare, just creating an environment in which students, not only Swedish students, but also international students feel welcome in. And like, it's not necessarily that you're just hanging out with your class or you're just hanging out with people from the same nation or from the same other student organization that you're working in or that you are a part of. But you genuinely meet like an extremely broad variety of people because our faculty is so big. Like it could be up to 10,000 students when it comes to like also not only full-time students but exchange students and then people taking extra courses here and there. So it is and it's in 3 cities. It's in Lund, Helsingborg, and in Malmö. So it's like it's very hard to grasp all of these people, right? But like out of nowhere you just meet a journalist from Malmö or you meet somebody studying strategic communication in Helsingborg and then like just like, oh cool, can I go over there and everything? And it just ends up that way. And then the third pillar, to circle back, is about labor market. A lot of unions work a lot with networking, labor market events, making sure that you can find your internship, helping you out with like writing CVs, hosting workshops and those kind of things. And I think that that's a very valuable part of the student union and what it offers as well.
Yeah. I think that's a really good description. That basically covers all that I wanted to say about MF.
But I mean, we can say that there is I think I haven't heard that much about like kind of the labor market part. Of course, we have career fairs and things like that are being organized, but otherwise that hasn't been that present to me. I think for us, it's a lot of focus on the educational monitoring and a lot of focus on a social.
Exactly.
And I think we are very good at that.
100%. Like the activities that MF offers is really, really nice because they have, I mean, I can list some off. They have a pub that they do usually about twice a week. They have brunches. They have my baby, the pea soup. And then there's, of course, the part that I'm sitting in right now, which is the novice period, which is also a fantastic way to get to know the younger students as well, and to kind of provide the same thing that we're providing right now, which is a little bit of like comfort and information for them.
Guidance.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of sports or like there's also a cultural committee and that's part of the unions is very similar to the nations, I would say. And also very affordable, which is great. And you meet people that you might study with, so you can go with your friends, but then you also meet other people that you might see in the faculty every day, but don't interact with. So it's a great way to kind of get into this life and then start from there.
And I mean, it's like, that's definitely my favorite aspect of it is how many people I've met from different programs because of how, I mean, international students come here probably to broaden their worldview. It's a fantastic opportunity to study internationally. And it's even better, actually, if you get involved with the people that are close around you in the faculty that you study in, because it's quite nice. Like Leonie said, it's quite nice to be walking around my building and to be able to say hi to so many people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's quite nice in that regard.
I would also want to talk about we talked about, okay, it has a social aspect being involved, but maybe there's also some other opportunities that students that come here can gain from being a part of a student union.
I would say the biggest one is kind of the experience that you gain in certain things. A good example of this is by being a brunch master, for example, or by being a pea master, someone who has a mainly kitchen-focused job. That's something great to put on your CV for later as well. So that's maybe.
I mean, as those like brunch masters and pea masters and that like those positions where you are responsible for volunteers that work for you. So you kind of can say that you have leadership opportunities in that sense because you lead a group and you're the person that's responsible for budgeting those events and also leading the workers for you so that everything runs smoothly because you are the person that is kind of responsible for this and you have to bear the consequences if something goes wrong. So
the big boss,
Yeah.
It's also all about like project leadership that a lot of these opportunities offer you. Like that's a great thing to have when you're working with like the social event side, or if you're working with like the labor market side. But I think that there's a lot of untapped value, especially when it comes to international students, when it comes to the organizational side and the student education monitoring and the student influence side. Because not only do you make sure that your voice is heard and that you actually get the space, you get the seat around the table, you want to be in the room where it happens. It's all about learning how to read documents that can be sometimes very difficult, like legal documents, even if you're a student representative. It can all be about learning how to delegate responsibility if you're in charge of a team where you have multiple people working underneath you. It's about understanding how university structures work, because that is something we haven't maybe mentioned much at this point. But the student union is here because universities on its own are extremely complicated organizations when it comes to their structure. And your union can be a little bit of a touch point to help you out, figure out who to go to and ask help for, how to help you with the things that you need. And I think that understanding organizational structures is also a really unappreciated skill in that regard.
It's been so interesting. We've been having a lot of discussions about that lately. Also, how is our university structured? I think we touched upon that very well at the beginning of the episode. But it's so interesting to be in these meetings with the professors and teachers and people responsible for the programs and the education to see, there are so many problems. We were having so many budget discussions lately, and I didn't know anything about budgets, but you kind of get led into this world where you do know about budgets because, and you have a thing to say about them because it affects your program in the end. So it's been so interesting to hear about that and see the different parts of it. And
especially if you, for example, select a more specific and more administrative position, you not only do you learn about budgets, but you can also learn how to write efficient meeting notes and how to read really complex documents. That's for me as a social scientist or a humanities student, it's very practical to know these things because it is connected to my education. But that doesn't mean that if you're studying medicine or if you're studying engineering or anything else in that regard, that it's not going to be relevant, because at some point you're going to work in a company or in an organization where you're going to need to understand organizational structures, and the skills that you get at the union are extremely valuable in that regard.
I mean, it's essentially, to sum it all up, your question, to kind of give it one big answer, I guess it's basically a diverse masterclass in such a wide variety of different life skills that it's ultimately a combination of that makes it worth it, along with the difference you can make, I think.
That's really great to sum it all up. And I think we also a bit touched upon it with what do you gain from this? So I think this also leads nicely into the next part, kind of that what impact these students have on our careers later and the career development. For example, through, I think you touched upon that before, also with career fairs and networking, that's also a part of the student unions, that they prepare us for working life later.
And I mean, Vero kind of just mentioned this, but it's something that gives you the skills that are going to be necessary in the job that you are doing later. And one of those good things is perhaps, I know I wasn't very well versed in kind of diplomatic discussions very well. Having grown up in quite a comedian family. So I wasn't very good at that. But sitting in these meetings with these teachers and with kind of the other board members and stuff, it really teaches you how to have quite a serious conversation about actual things with actual consequences. And that in and of itself is a fantastic skill. And beyond that, I mean, for example, a direct example I can give you is our faculty has a surgery committee, KIRU, I think it's called. And that offers an excellent opportunity for students who are interested in surgery, specifically after medicine, to go and be able to practice those skills so that translates well when they go to get their surgical specialization. So there's many different many different things that it offers for you for career translation.
But then also as a whole, I think I mentioned this, we do have a career fair for the whole faculty where we invite biomedical medical companies that you can talk to directly and network, especially. I think networking is a huge part. So that helps a lot with career development too. Yeah, I think you probably have something similar.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. We do have a very similar thing. It's a labor market fair called Samarbete. But I know that HTS, the Humanities and Theology Student Union, also has like a small committee where they work on things and are trying to show students. They're having a really cool Advent calendar right now, which is really fun with like little tips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But altogether, I also used my participation and like my involvement at the union to figure out what will working life be like, because I went from helping out and being a volunteer for the union or a student representative or just active in the union alongside my studies. I switched into actually working full-time for the union, where you are not, in most cases, allowed to actually pursue your studies and you have to ask for a year off.
And it's a very 9-to-5 job. Then.
It's the same here.
Or longer.
I wish it was 9 to 5, but it honestly gave me so many skills that I never expected to have before, because as a person, I've always been scared of actually like, what is it going to be like when I'm not studying anymore?
I think we're all scared of that.
Exactly. It's sort of a shared experience. But to me, it allowed me to see like, okay, now I am responsible for my time. I have to answer to my board and make sure that they know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what am I working on. It taught me like time management skills, and I had to write documents. I had to negotiate with the faculty leadership like every 2 weeks or every week about things that we wanted in that regard and what the students wanted. And that's the most important skill in that regard. I got to try what it feels like to be in an office. And actually lead that office.
Yes. And you're responsible for you hold the student union kind of in your hands.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And not just the student union, because like you have the student union as an organization, but you don't need to be a member of Studentland in order for the student union to have to protect your voice in that regard. Like the student union needs to take the best interest of the general body of students, regardless of membership. Like student unions are absolutely vital. And
you represent every single student in your whole faculty. That is a lot of pressure.
And then you're trying to just like find the things that like, of course, student bodies have differing interests and opinions. So you're just trying to find out the best solution. So the negotiation skills you have to have, crisis management skills, altogether, all of that combined is just something that it felt very much at the beginning like, oh, it's going to be so hard because I am an international student, but I put the dedication in to understand Swedish and like try to learn it to that point where I could be in that room and then I could bring the perspective without feeling excluded in any way. And I'm so grateful that I did it because it taught me so much.
That is so impressive, honestly.
But to add on to that, it's important to note as well that learning Swedish is not necessarily mandatory in all cases in terms of getting involved with student unions. Our union is both English and Swedish speaking, and I think that it comes naturally with living here that you will start to understand what's going on and you will pick up the language and start to learn words. But it's also important to note that you don't have to be Swedish speaking to be able to get involved.
For example, I was the only person in our the General Assembly, the parliament that we talked about that was English speaking, and they made the whole meeting in Swedish, not in Swedish, in English for me. That's what I wanted to say. So they were very accommodating with that. Like, of course, it sometimes feel like you might feel an imposter once in a while, but it's very like accommodating here, and they will adapt to your needs, and that you, especially when it's about legal documents or like these things that are being discussed in those meetings. That's even if you studied Swedish for a bit. I did a Swedish course. That's a level of Swedish that I did not reach at that point. So
and that you mentioned in and of itself about sometimes it may feel like you're the only English speaker. I know how that feels because I've been the first international P-master and then not the first international general, but the first international English speaking general. And there have been certain cases where I've felt that maybe I'm pushing a little bit beyond my comfort zone, but that's also quite healthy for students especially, and a good thing to learn. So, but they're still, like, as Leonie mentioned, they're still quite inclusive, and it's very easy as an English speaker to be a part of it.
Yeah. I think one of the last things that I want to mention here is also, I don't think you could have missed this, that Lund is ranked first on the environmental impact, governance and equality. This is kind of a turn that we're taking now. But yeah, I think how do these student unions also support these goals?
I think that like the role of student unions when it comes to this accomplishment that the university has achieved is in not in necessarily anything you can see at one time, but it's through the continuous work and bringing up these issues over not just the last few years, but over decades.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's not just a success of our researchers, but it's also a success of our education when it comes to sustainability, climate, and environmental topics. We have a lot of centers for sustainability and you can study sustainability from different aspects, from like more of a natural science point of view. You can study it more from a social point of view. And I also think that sustainability is very included in almost every course or almost every program at some point.
Yeah, it's really heavily in our kind of embedded in our curriculum. I don't know how much that relates to the union, but I know that for all of the programs, they really drive it in.
And I think also an important part is it's not just the sustainability, but also they take into consideration the governance and equality. And I think the student unions, you can see that we have a seat at the table, and the unions are present in these government situations and the decisions that the university takes. And that is also taken into account. And I think Lund is really good at including their students into the conversation.
Yeah. And it's just good to know that like you have to be in a room and you have to understand what is going on around you, and then you get to voice not only your opinion. It's not about your personal opinion very often. It's about talking to the other people and talking to your classmates and students that also might not have the same opinions as you. But not every single time is the university going to agree with you. The main point of student unions is that you work with and against the university. You need to be there to cooperate with the university and then talk about things like implementing course syllabi and making sure that they're more sustainability focused, like we have mentioned before. But then you also need to be able to say, okay, now you've done this wrong and we need you to do it correctly. And it's something that is ingrained in the Swedish university governance, and that is ingrained in the Swedish law as well, which is really important. And that's why it's a little bit sad to see that the unions are losing money right now from the state. And it's just...
That is a big point that has been affecting a lot of unions, that also the student unions are losing money. So they are a vital part, and they will... stay here because we have to be included into conversations, but it's also a really tough time for some of the student unions, some more than others.
Absolutely. And that's why I think it would be good for not just the Swedish students that know a little bit more about the student unions, but also for the international students to come to help out and to protect our education, because that is at the end of the day what the student unions are about and what they're here for.
So I think we're going to wrap this up. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't mentioned? I feel like we got a very good overview of there are social parts, there are more networking parts, and maybe ways to get into working life also, and what is there to see about that. But then also educational monitoring is a huge part and a good part to be active in, because that's how we can actually change something.
I think I would love to add that it still might be a little bit confusing as how can you contribute in this regard? We should all end on a call to action. So in some sense, what I can recommend is find out what faculty is your program under, and then you can just Google what is the name of your student union. And then you can either follow them on social media. A lot of them have Instagram and Facebook where you can find them. You can also find their website. But also just the best tip I can give you is just find when do they have their office hours, or when they have a stand at the faculty that you can visit them, and just go and have a chat with them. And you don't need to have anything much to say in that regard. The people at the union will just be so happy that they get to hear what is it that you're studying and what is it that you do. And it just helps out a lot in that regard. So definitely come and join, because it's not only really, really important, it's also incredibly fun.
Yeah, the last bit I have to say is that it's quite similar, but that there's both a gain really for both sides. So from a personal point of view, it's really, really quite fun. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing if I could go back and choose not to the position, I would never take that choice, because it's been one of my favorite parts of not only student life, but also in making a difference and in knowing that my influence and my participation essentially is impactful for future students that are studying the same thing as I am. So kind of my last bit of advice is get involved. Go to your faculty, go find your union and go get in there, because it's going to be a really great experience.
And a great way to start is always social activities to get into there, to meet people. And yeah, I think we gave a really good overview of what it is like to be in a student union. And you can see that we have the medical and the social science here right now, but there's also way more in Lund. So yeah, thank you for being my guest today. And I hope I'll see you soon and have fun in the student unions.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can chat with current students on Unibuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.